Good afternoon, Horizon Summit friends. We are at our WSC sports panel, the new normal for sports right holders. We have Shaka Arnon, the general manager for North America at WSC, and we have Scott Fahey, the senior director of NHL partnerships at Disney Streaming Services. I am your humble moderator, Joe Lemire with Sport Techie. If any of you are compelled to join the social conversation, we ask that you use the hashtag Horizon Summit, and from there we'll dive on into our topic for the day. And Shaka, we'll start with you. What are the challenges that you've been assisting rights holders with during this very unique 2020?
All right. First of all, hi, Joe and everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm excited to be here. So 2020 has been unique, and things have been, there's no history to learn from to know what to do and get some lessons from the past. So we were all winging it, I guess. But some of the obvious ones were the fact, first of all, people are working from home. And now you have those elaborate systems, those hubs where people are working, and usually working from the office with systems that they log into, and now they can't log in. So our platform enabled them to work on the cloud, and actually working from home made no difference. That was one obvious thing. The second was the fact that there's no live sports. How do you keep your customers engaged? And when I say customers, I really make the differentiation between customers and fans, and that's where sports is unique. Customers, when you hit them too much, it becomes spam, right? But sports fans, it's never too much. They always want more. So now you don't have live sports. What do you do? How do you quench their thirst, right? How do you bring them what they want? So our platform enabled our partners, the rights holders, to really take stuff that they've had from the past, archive content. Maybe it was from this season, this current season that stopped, or maybe previous seasons. Take that archive and really leverage it in ways they couldn't do before. Because our system, I'll give a one-liner description. Our system logs the games, tags each games to identify each play, and creates a clip for each play, and then compiles those to video, to stories, to narrative telling videos. So our platform really enabled to do anything and engage the fans, even with stuff that happened, a year ago, 2 years ago, or even 10 years ago, and give the fans more. So yeah, and those are a couple of things.
Yeah, and I was perhaps remiss at the start for not mentioning that WSC Sports is far grander than that one line sentence. I first met Shaka probably 2 or 3 years ago at this point in a New York City coffee shop, back when such things were allowed. And on the laptop on the table in front of us, I mean, he was, with a few keystrokes, was, anything that I suggested, he would create a highlight package for me immediately with graphics that made sense, with, the flowing of one clip to the next was very seamless. The kind of thing you would ask a production assistant to do over the course of an hour or two, he was doing in moments. And that's a key reason why WSC was the 2018 Sport Techie Technology of the Year. And largely based on conversations that I had with executives at MLS and the NBA, who were talking about how their metrics were off the charts since they had begun partnering with WSC. And obviously the NHL and Disney are one of the newer partners. So Scott, perhaps you can share, how did this partnership start from your perspective, and what were some of the Disney NHL goals in working with WSC?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joe. So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for your time. So we started with WSC, I guess around the summertime, late summertime, with our initial engagements, and just really trying to get an understanding of POC, how we could implement it into our production pipeline. And what we realized very quickly is that there's some value there, obviously. And I guess some of the major KPIs that we were working toward was really, speed to market. How do we get highlights out in front of our owned and operated platforms as soon as possible? Because clearly we're, trying to get content out faster to brands and to fans, and then also making sure that we're moving to market to monetize. So, in terms of their tool set, acquiring our feeds, being able to cut them up using sports data, quickly getting them through our content management system. Those were clearly the big values that we had seen. So after getting through a pretty, robust proof of concept with Shaka and team, we moved into integration. And a little after puck drop, I think we got everything ironed out and found ourselves in a situation where we were starting to figure out, okay, how can we start looking at it now from, okay, we're seeing the enhancements, we're seeing the improvements, we're seeing the speed to market. Now let's start to figure out how to enhance that and optimize it even further. And that's, when you start to get into the fun stuff, right? How are you able to get different flavors of content out for different platforms, and how do you syndicate them in a quicker, more robust way? So all the opportunities start to open up, not just in relation of traditional owned and operated, but also like different commercial models start to spring up. When you have the ability to scale syndication quickly along with your content, it gives you the opportunity to think of things differently.
Yeah, what are some of those commercial models?
So you put me on the spot right away, Joe. I think the one thing that I found most interesting when you really start to look into it is the ability to push to, even publishing sites directly. You can start to formulate subscription models with those partners, so you're not locking them into, a traditional sports licensing deal that spans over a number of years. It gives you the flexibility to say, hey, do you want to do a monthly subscription model? I can get you a particular pack of highlights that, are associated with your market. And then if that, partner says, yeah, let's do it, you can light them up fairly quickly through syndication nodes. You can, use WSC to identify the types of clips that you want to procure, package, and send. And then if it's not working out for whatever reason, or if they're not seeing the ROIs that they want, there's a number of reasons why these things come and go. You can quickly provision to turn off that syndication node. So it's all essentially over the wall, which is nice, because then you're dedicating the internal resources that you have toward things that might be more critical path for you.
I can riff on that as well.
Yeah, please.
So usually what we see with our partners, the rights holders, the initial period when we come on board is that we're streamlining the processes that were available before, right? We're taking that huge group of editors and production assistants, as you mentioned, and replace them with automation, so it's comparable but faster, and you have more attention span to do other things. So it's a great cost saver. But once you do that, very fast you understand, hey, it's a whole nother thing. It's a paradigm shift here, because what I've done before just scratches the surface of what you can do with the system, because you had a scale problem when you had editors, right, that were doing the whole thing, or production assistants. With automation, that limit, that scale is actually far beyond what you've had before. So it's a whole paradigm shift, and I like to call it the move from VOD, which is where we are, to VOC, to video on command, where every fan will be able to go and not just choose when they want to see it, which is the case now with VOD, but what they want to see, where, how, and what platform, what format. Everything you can customize may be powered by the fan at the end of the day, where it's still a little further away from us. But at the end of the day, the fan wants the control, will have the control, because the videos will be personalized for each fan. So that sounds maybe, again, not where we are right now, but this is what we're aiming for, generally speaking, to really revolutionize how people consume sports and allow them to get the personalized content, what they want and when. Because, right now I have 6.5 minutes until my next meeting. Let me create a 6-minute highlight for me right now from from my favorite team. And if you have the control for that as a fan, that's the holy grail.
Yeah,
and
and
automation allows you to do it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this hyper localization, and whether it's an NBA fan in France wanting to see Rudy Gobert highlights, or I'm guessing the Disney doesn't have a dedicated, production assistant for Finland to get those Tuukka Rask and Patrick Laine highlights, and so that those international markets, I would imagine, are probably an area where you can make a lot of headway, right?
Yeah, I could take that. Yeah, I mean that's right. So NHL Digital, like we're clearly trying to drive highlights out through NHL and their partners as well as direct partnerships, and to think about some of these international markets and the valuation exercise. Does it make sense to go through all the labor to have editors like you're suggesting, where this is a very quick way to do it? And the other thing I should note too, obviously, in terms of KPIs with WSC, the speed to market's critical, but a lot of people are cautious with AI, doing the clip cutting itself. How does it cut, the clip at the exact right time? And is it provisioning content that is of the quality that's key? So going through that and identifying that it does just that, it does what you need it to do. That's important, right? Because that's sort of the table stakes for getting into this type of thing. And I'd also say too, like to Shaka's point, like it allows you to do a lot of the mass work at a high quality with a good speed to market, but then it also frees up those production staff to do more, dynamic types of, robust Premiere or Final Cut or Avid type edit projects to really drive a brand. So, it's, I don't think we're currently viewing it as any type of thing where it's, replacing anything. It's really working in supplement, in concert. And it's proving to be a more and more robust tool as we continue to go down this path.
Mm-hmm. While we were chatting the other day in preparation, it came up that there are really 3 jobs that you guys are collaborating on now: keeping fans engaged during the pause, being number 1; number 2, making a splash when the sport is reinstated; and number 3, looking ahead to next season, whenever that might be, in whatever format that might be. So there's a lot of uncertainty dictating, some of those dynamics. But maybe starting with Shaka, how do you work through those 3 jobs?
So again, this is uncharted territory a little bit. One characteristic of the period to come, right? When things are back, allegedly everything's normal, right? But NHL in July, when did that happen? And competing on fans' thirst with every other league that just came back in July, that's also a unique situation. So how do you really, again, satisfy what the fans want? That's a challenge that we need to figure out. And I argue that one of the best things is, first of all, get a lot of content out there. There's a problem of making it accessible, so people will find it. That's where DSS excels. But if you put more content where people are really they have a quench for more sports after long months of no sports, then I would argue that would be a good thing. So that's why the scale, again, is a value in and of itself. And the second thing is resonates a little bit with what we talked before. If you target it to the specific fan preference on some app, whether it's on the NHL app, specific team page, you got what you want, or specific player page, or on your fantasy app, you get exactly the players that we know about you from the data we have about you. We deliver to you that highlight that really suits what you are looking for right now, what we expect you to look for right now. That's the power. That's what you need to do to really get people engaged when you compete for their attention, when everything is coming back and a splash is happening, but you want to be the biggest splash.
Mm-hmm. Scott, do you have something to add on your side?
In relation to your question, pause reinstatement next season. It's a lot of whiteboarding right now. I think it's trying to figure out, what to address first. And then, to the point of, I think a lot of sports leagues, Heidi covered this a lot earlier during the social overview that the NHL provided. How are we engaging with our fans? How are we leveraging social and players to do that? And they did a fantastic job, in engaging, especially during the pause with everything going on. And I think from our side, where Disney sits as an NHL digital rights holder, I think a lot of it was how do we get, the game content that we have the rights to out in front of our customers and our fans to try to keep the spirit up. A lot of that was classic game content that we were working with. And a lot of it was continuing to keep sort of our bespoke production development, like we were in NHL moving, things that fans really still love. So pause related, I think is specific to WSC, it was trying to figure out, what do we have within the archive of our very new relationship that we can tap and leverage and dynamically push, because a lot of us are working remote, and access to servers was challenging. So leveraging the relationship as we could in that regard. And then further, just in general, trying to test things right during a classic game pause. What are some opportunities that you haven't been able to look at that you can look at now because it's going to come back, and when it comes back, you're in a position to create that splash, as Shaka suggests. So that's kind of like, I think, how we were addressing the pause for the most part. And then reinstatement, I think we're hanging on, the every word of the NHL. We got, some good news today as it relates to training camps opening up. The hope is that everything continues to progress, and everyone stays healthy, and we do get this engine started again, because I think everyone's excited for sports. And a lot of it's going to come at the same time. So while we're focused on our NHL digital silo, Shaka is going to be working across probably a number of those sports leagues. So from our perspective, it's making sure that we're tied and aligned with them on sprints for any of the changes that happen with the way in which they're developing the broadcasts, data feeds, et cetera, because that's going to have an impact on our production automation through WSC.
And one more small addition, the live experience of watching the game, when that is enhanced, that makes a difference. I think especially after we didn't have live for so long, then live becomes even more precious than it was before. It was always the most important thing, but now perhaps even more. And DSS have very cool features to enhance the live experience, and if we can build on those and get more stuff, and that's what we're working on with our friends at DSS, that makes a whole lot of difference.
Mm-hmm. What kind of tests and experimentation have you been able to try during this time period?
Joe, that for me?
Yeah.
I think from our side, a lot of it was, taking the content set that we have access to and trying to figure out where, when to put it. Most recently, we've come up with a simulcast classic game, Stanley Cup Classic Game Series program that we're trying to run. I believe we're reinstating it Monday of this coming week. And really, that's just about how do we amplify some of these games as we start to build up, into the new reinstatement. So getting it across all the social handles and owned and operated so that fans can see it everywhere, get moving on that. That was a program that we worked. These things seem like they're fairly easy to stand up, but like when you start to get into it, they become a little more evolved. It's like the onion peeling exercise. So getting that up and running, is the one that we can speak to. A lot of the other concepts are, it became a question of, okay, there's some testing, there's some partners. How do we get some of these proof of concept agreements in place? And then how much time do we have to test? And then when do we start to cut over into opportunities for the oncoming reinstatement? So it's been a bit of a balancing act. That's sort of the one that's made it to the owned and operated. There's a few others that we're working on that we're still trying to turn. And that's all consuming. I think that we're very hopeful that we've got some great discussions going on as it relates to reinstatement. I think everybody's focused on a very digital experience in lieu of the fact that fans won't be in arenas. So I think, we're really trying to figure out how we can step in there, how we can make that splash that Shaka suggests and really kind of drive into that area as well.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to?
Yeah.
I'll answer that as well. So as a technology company that's relatively young and growing, a hiatus like that, a pause, besides the fact that it's a big challenge, was also a big opportunity because we have all those ideas in our backlog that, we'll get to that in 2027 maybe.
Yeah.
This pause was, precious. This was gold. We had time to implement a lot of the things that we've had, and some of it is, maybe infrastructure work that you never have time to do. So it's been great for us and our R&D team, and also on the product side and the making new business happen. We've developed a few new features. So you may have seen a few leagues use more and more content on split screen to have the fans vote on social media. That's happening based on templates automatically through our system. We're almost done developing now a broadcast solution because we talked about working from home. Working from home dictates that you work on your Wi-Fi, and that usually supports digital streams, HD, but not broadcast, not 4K. Now we're integrating a solution to really support that broadcast quality. So still work from home, but you'll have the ability to do broadcast from home without being on site. So those are just two examples of the stuff that finally we had the time to take out of the backlog, clear the dust a little bit from the idea and make it happen.
And I imagine as sports get up and running and broadcasts get up and running, we're probably talking about fewer folks on site, fewer folks in the studio as well, just as we maintain a lot of the social distancing. And I imagine that's the kind of solution that'll reap some benefits for a lot of the rights holders.
Yeah, that's why that was one of the first things that we said, hey, this was indeed in the backlog for too long. This now is the time. So excited about that. It's coming soon.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's the original plan had been for the NHL's new puck and player tracking system to be ready for the playoffs, and now there's a little uncertainty as to whether that will indeed happen this year, but it's certainly coming at one point or another. And I know that a lot of the WSC, I was going to say magic, but as anyone who's been to their website knows, it's actually auto-magical. A lot of that is powered by data. What kind of new opportunities do you foresee in having that kind of that tracking data stream as well? For either of you.
I'll start with that, and then you'll take it, Scott. So for us as an AI company, technology, the more technology, the better. If the data is deeper and we have tracking, because we never use hardware, we only use software, and we take those videos and analyze it from what we get. So if there's more data, then we can do more. We can find more nuanced stories and nuanced details, and that's great for us. And so we're down with more data and tracking and all that. But that specifically here with the player puck tracking, I think may be very exciting with stuff that you may be able more angles that you can hit with gaming, with betting. And that's one of the things that, people, all the panels are talking about betting. Yeah, it's going to be an opportunity. So I don't want to, beat a dead horse with here, but I think this pause really accelerated some of the processes we thought would take years. And some of the states that it was obvious it's going to take 5 more years, it might not take 5 months now. So that, I think, goes hand in hand with more data, and we're excited to get in deeper to more details that are given to us by all that technology.
Yeah, from our side, it's tremendous value there, right? I think just puck and player tracking is more on the NHL side in terms of they're running with that program. A lot of the gambling components too, it's more in the NHL world too, because you think about sports, a lot of this is brand related. And in terms of the rights set that we work with, we're clearly focused on monetization as well as supporting the brand. They go hand in hand, as you get in there. But a lot of the sort of gambling and data related gambling efforts, most of that's on the league side. But in terms of the way in which we operate with WSC, to Shaka's point, gambling aside, the more data that you can pull in, the quicker you can pull it in, the more it allows us to even automate our production workflows that we have. And they're really plugged in, their WSC's AI technology, a lot of that is really based off data integrations, and using that data to queue up when those edits happen. And the more you get in there and the more we're able to leverage that, the more we can enhance that even further. So it's there's so many different value propositions to it. But I think that, everybody in sports is clearly aware that that's something that's coming.
Mm-hmm. And Scott, you mentioned the monetization piece, and certainly a lot of sports sponsorship budgets are also up in the air right now. But how does a product like WSC's help with the inventory of what you can offer a sponsor? How does it change the conversation? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does. So back to Shaka's point before, the more you can get, the more, if you're low, if your inventory is strained, the more content you can get out there. It's a pretty supply demand type workflow. I think, the challenge that we see now is that the advertising is in a bit of a holding pattern. So we can push out as much as we want. We can push out 20 times what we have. But clearly there's an advertising challenge as it relates to sports not being live, and that's where eyeballs are going. I think as we get into the reinstatement, and some of those optimizations that we're starting to really get into with WSC now that we're up and running, I think it's about, all right, where do we want to try to direct more content, more meaningful content in robust ways to allow for more inventory, to allow for more opportunities on the monetization angle? That's kind of the big play. And then I think, further to that, we're in discussions with some of the roadmap items where they get a little bit, more integrated with SEO and ways in which, you can drive typical people that are just kind of coming in looking for something to your owned and operated. You can get more sponsorship opportunities there. Those are, meaningful ways in which we're looking to partner, obviously, with WC going forward too. So, a lot to come. And Shaka and I we're probably engaged once a week at this point, trying to figure out, what are the ones that can move the needle and how we can leverage them and how we can prepare for it. So it's a good time to do that, as he points out.
Mm-hmm. We're getting near the last few minutes of this, so if anyone does have a question that they want answered, feel free to use that Q&A tab at the bottom. But for our panelists, and we'll start with Shaka. You mentioned a few of the cool new tricks that R&D's been pulling out in the last few months, but what about the near future of 1, 2, 3 years from now? How much farther can you go with your technology? What should viewers expect?
I think that I described it as revolutionizing how people are watching sports, and I think it's not overreaching. I think it's going to happen. Everyone, if asked, would imagine that by 2025, 2030, okay, people are not sitting on their couch watching 3 hours of a live game. They have some different way to watch it because we don't have the attention span, we don't have the time, and you know what? We're used to better. So that's why I'm saying that would be a really personalized experience. And I mean, not localized, but personalized. And again, I called it VOC. On command, you'll be able to pull whatever you wanted at whatever time you wanted to whatever screen you have. And that's where it's going. And you can't do that. You can't target it, 10 million fans without automation. So that's why that's where it's going. And that's where we're positioned with automation to take it there. Mm-hmm. With our partners.
And Scott, what would you like to see happen in a few years with the technology?
I think as far as my mind can stretch, I'm thinking about the 2020 season. That's as far as my brain will let me go right now. Because we got to get through pause, reinstatement, off season, new season. I think I think getting the reinstatement in place, understanding the structure of the way in which the NHL is going to do it and the implications on the feed and how we automate all that, that's going to be a little bit of a lift, believe it or not, because it's going to happen quickly. And then from there, just trying to understand like what the next season will look like. And I think that, we going into the sort of pause, the COVID pause, like we had a bunch of ideas on what we wanted to do for the following season, getting ready for that off season. And I think we're sort of bullish to get back in there, but a lot of our brain power and our psychic space is tied up in, reinstatement and then turning to that off season. But I think a lot of it is data driven. I think we see great opportunity in data over the next few years as an industry. I don't know that it will specifically apply to the right set that we have. It's still unclear, but I think as with WSC, with where they stand, and I think with where a lot of the sports leagues are going, I think that's going to be critical.
Mm-hmm. Got a fun fact for all of our viewers, in case you've been wondering. WSC actually stands for World Scouting Center. The original incarnation of the company was to help coaches prepare for an opponent. So Shaka, when will the scouting product finally see the light of day?
First of all, good memory. Second of all, the anecdote ends with the fact that every coach we went to said, "Oh, this is awesome. That's what I need. I don't have any money. Can I get that, please?" So that's where the anecdote goes. So then we had to make the switch. But listen, scouting evolved since we started, and scouting now, at least in the big leagues, revolves a lot around hardware. You have radars and hyper specific cameras to do hyper specific things, and we moved away from it, and we're now serving through our partners, through the rights holders, the fans, and not the performance of players, but the quenching the thirst of the fans. That's our mission now. But the name stayed for karma.
Well, I was reminded with the unfortunate passing of the late great NBA commissioner David Stern, how much he loved your company and was an investor, but how much he disliked the name.
Yes, one of our proudest moments. Now, I'm kidding. Yeah, he always used to poke at us with the name, but the name stayed for now.
Yeah, no, as it should at this point. I believe we did carve it in on your Sportechie Award trophy, if such a physical one actually existed. But I also am getting the cue that we're running out of time here. But thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you, Shaka. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone out in the audience who has stayed with us. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of Horizon Summit.
Stay well. Thank you both, and to all the viewers. Thanks.
Stay safe, everyone. Take care, Joe. See you, Shaka.